Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tactical Friday. You heard from him this past Monday, and I am blessed to be welcoming Orrin Lieuwen back to the show as we talk a little bit more tactically about the Lionheart aspect of leadership. Orrin, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, Zach. Glad to be here.
Man, I am so blessed you're here. I think this is going to be a great piece of the conversation because you mentioned several things on Monday that I want to dive deeper into. You mentioned you have a webinar. Obviously, you have this leadership, coaching, training aspect attached to it. But overall, your goal is to build awareness and education attached to what Lionheart leadership looks like. And if somebody wants to engage with you, if somebody wants to develop that Lionheart in their life, in their leadership, what would you say like the top two recommendations are for somebody wanting to really further that aspect of their lives?
To really develop it, I would say the first thing would be to see negative emotions as flags that this is where you want to focus on next in your personal growth. You're an organic a human being. You're a living being, and so when you feel something's off, when you feel like maybe it's an anger, maybe it's a fear, maybe it's a guilt, whatever it is, our tendency as human beings is to seek for comfort, and so we head away from those things. But those are the most valuable opportunities for your growth. And so I would say, hey, when you have this sense, this you know, face that and face that. That's your next opportunity. See it as an opportunity to really grow and develop and to stretch out yourself. And
Now,
to
now
really,
that hang on real quick. That's a tough one, right? That's a tough
yeah,
one. See negative emotions as flags or opportunities, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the referee throws the flag in the play. You have
yeah,
an opportunity here to learn.
yeah,
When you talk about negative emotions,
yeah,
I say this way too much, and this is probably something that a lot of people aren't going to love to hear. But
sure,
when you react and you have an emotion inside, that's a you thing, right? I didn't offend you. You're offended because of your beliefs on something. But what
mhm,
I said is my belief on something. So if you're offended, that ends up being a you thing. If you have a negative emotion attached to something,
yeah,
that's a you thing. Yes, I might have said something that was very offensive to you, but somebody else might not find that equally offensive. Are you talking about negative emotions in your day-to-day life that are self-imposed and negative self-talk? Or are you talking more about negative emotions in reactionary situations from clients, family, business? How do you delineate between those two?
actually, both of them offer opportunities. If you have the negative self-talk, that's a more longer term, that's a more habitual action that then you have time to slow down, say, hey, what's going on here? And to really explore that, in the comfort of time. Now, in the moment of performance, you're also going to have certain reactions that come up, and that's a bit of a deeper work to really excavate what's happening in this situation when I'm reacting quickly. And maybe if I'm getting angry, it could be that maybe my expectations, I'm having incorrect expectations, or maybe I'm actually correctly angry and there's an injustice here, right? And so being able to have the clarity of mind to work through this is important. And I completely agree, because it is, we can easily say this person makes me so angry, and we can feel that way. But actually what's happening is the person's not getting angry. I am responding in a way to make me angry. And so a person can do something that's contrary to my values or to my preferences, but ultimately my response is on me. And I can learn to control that response in a way that's going to increase that's going to really be helpful to me, that's going to help me to move forward towards my goals.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And it's an interesting dichotomy. In my journey, is one of those where I focus so far outward, more knowledge, more masterminds, more business coaching, more mentors, an MBA education. And I didn't do just like a normal MBA. I did an MBA in small business operations, plus a concentration in security management for one of my companies. And that piece of my background, certifications, credentials, I've always sought out external knowledge.
Mm.
And I never look at it, and that's very professional, right? It's for professional development.
Yeah.
My journey, the book I'm writing really starts, the like chapter one is when I got slapped upside the head by a veteran, a friend, a brother of mine that looked at me like, bro, you've done all this outward expansion of your knowledge and development, but you've never taken the time to look inward. You've never
Mm.
taken the time to look at yourself and learn, love, develop who you are personally in your own head. And his exact words were like, I honestly don't think you love yourself anymore.
Mm.
And that's where these negative emotions and the rage, the veteran, the upset, the chip on my shoulder that I had, it was a slap in the face. And I
Mm.
needed it, right? It was a very good slap in the face. But do you see that piece of it where like people are so concentrated outwardly that they think it'll be an advancement piece, but really, and it's what happened to me. I was sabotaging myself because I never looked inward. Is
Yeah.
that what we're kind of looking at? Make sure you check both sides of the negative emotions.
Absolutely, yeah. And you see, I like that you bring that up, Zach, because we need a healthy interplay between our outer world and our inner world. And so you and many people do have an over focus on their external world. I've worked with clients who have an over focus on the external world, and it's not that that is bad. There's a lot of value out there to learn, from your studies and from your experiences, but it's just unbalanced. And so your friend who wisely pointed out, hey, slow down, you need to pay attention to this other part of you, the inner world, right? In my own experience, there has been times where I have done the opposite. And I know there's also people out there who over focus on the inner world and who are going so far in that direction. Well, then, hey, where's the real competence and the real abilities and the really getting out there and experiencing life and accomplishing things? That, so for me, it was, when I say Lionheart, it's, hey, stepping outside those comfort zones and jumping out there. So we definitely need a healthy balance of both.
Yeah, I love that because that was something, man, I swear I did not understand.
Mm.
And nobody ever told me that piece, right? I'm like, well, man, if somebody had said it sooner, maybe in reality, man, I started in law enforcement at such a, I was at 21. So a 21-year-old with all this power and authority, obviously I thought I was hot shit, right? I thought I was the best in the world. So I probably would have listened anyways. And it took that, like we talked about on Monday, that hindsight being 2020 lesson I learned.
Yeah.
So I love that we highlighted that piece. But you said you had a second recommendation. Tell us, what is the second recommendation you'd give to somebody as they try to develop this lion heart?
Right, right. The second one is believe that you can. There's a line by Les Brown, a public speaker, where he says, every day, sell yourself on your abilities and believe that you can. And I think that is key because every person is incredibly resourceful. But we get into these states, we get into these mindsets and these states of being that are very unresourceful. And so this is when we feel stuck, when we feel frustrated, when there's no momentum, is there's a problem in our believing about ourselves and in not accessing those resources and those abilities. But they're in there. And so if you're a listener and you're like, man, this sounds really cool, but I don't think it's for me, I'm challenging that. Listen to what I'm saying and say, hey, that's actually wrong. I have been given everything that I need as a human being to be able to function well and to think well and to act well and to overcome problems and difficulties and your challenges that you can really grow through. There's some amazing studies out there. There's a book that I, yesterday was packing in the box for the move on Thursday, about what's it? Eminence. I forget the title of the book, but it's about childhoods of eminence, about these people who were incredibly famous that we know many of them. We know Abraham Lincoln and so many of these of these famous people and their childhoods that were incredibly dark and incredibly difficult. And they learned to be overcomers, and they really came to this place of success and significance. And so to bring it back up is believe that it's possible for you.
And that's a tough one, right? That's something
Mhm.
that it took a veteran friend. It took a business coach. Honestly, it took therapy for
Yeah.
me to understand stepping into the limelight, stepping into the front. Because I was a Dale Carnegie guy. Went to the Dale Carnegie Academy, went back and taught Dale Carnegie. Love his lessons. And one of his lessons, I write about this in my book actually, and it makes me laugh because it's so funny looking at it because there's a dichotomy. But one of his best lessons is sometimes the best leaders are the first follower.
Mm.
And I love that. But what I didn't recognize is I used that and bastardized his lesson and became a permanent follower. That was your best number
Mhm.
two. And I was never willing to step in the forefront of any of my projects because they rise and die on somebody else, right? It's
Mhm.
not on me, it's on you. And I use that as an excuse to never be in the limelight. So I
Mm.
love that piece of it. Took a long time for me to understand and learn. It is on me, and it is. I have those capabilities,
Yeah.
and it took somebody like you to highlight that for me. So your value in this world is so freaking amazing, man. And I love these recommendations because these are things that these tactics are what really will shift the trajectory of a person professionally, personally, in life. I know you mentioned the webinar on Monday. You mentioned that you're doing a monthly piece that people can show up to, people can learn more about this stuff. Tell us again. Tell us about the webinar. What are we going to learn in this webinar? What are your links? What are your handles on social media? How can we contact you and learn more about developing and transforming into this Lionheart leader?
Mhm. Yeah, this is actually perfect because so the webinar is about finding the positive message behind your negative emotions. And so what I talked about earlier in the first recommendation is finding that message. Now, if you're like, okay, that's a great idea, but how do I actually do that? Come to the webinar at lionheartleadership.ca/webinar. And there we're going to take moments of resistance and fear and negative emotions that you have and say, hey, what's the positive message behind this? And then as well as the believing in yourself is coming out from under the illusion that I can't do it, as we're going to help find that positive message and give and help you access the resources so that you can be that person that you want to be, so that and especially in this webinar, the focus is those moments of difficulty, to really take a step back to say, what am I trying to do in this moment? What's my positive intention? This resistance, what's the value behind that? So I can live through this difficult situation in a way that's congruently healthy, in a way that I'm going to be proud of when I look back on. And so I would love to see, I'd love to see you there.
I love it, man. It's something I recommend everybody go check it out. Lionheartleadership.ca for Canada. We won't make too many jokes about you being Canadian. No, but lionheartleadership.ca. The webinar is on there. It's such a great avenue for people to understand character-based leadership, the values, the virtues of the individual, and how they really make up who you are, both at home and professionally. Overall, man, Orrin, I appreciate you, brother. Some amazing content. You're the best, man. I really highlight and really encourage everybody. Go check this out. Go check out this webinar. No stress, no harm, no foul, man. Check it out. Get more information because this could be the step, just like I needed to further who you are and develop that lion heart. Orrin, thanks so much for your time, my friend.
Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it.